Okay, so I have been in a very deep dive of analysis that really started. Oh my god, yeah. That really started with last night, and then it's just been going on and on. Um, right now, I'm dissecting sinners, right, which has come out. It's been a year now, I believe. But before I get to that, I want to, I guess, mention what led me to what I'm like deep diving right now. Last night, yesterday, I was just in a space of just being grateful and, honoring my ancestors, honoring just being reflective of the life I've lived and of like where I am now, and just, just being showing gratitude, right? Um, and in doing so, I started to get some channeled messages of like basically what is to come and was what was ending in the previous chapters of my life, and what I needed to release and shed, and then also what I need to be mindful of moving forward. And I actually need to say I'm being guided. I forgot that I had wrote down some things, so I feel guided to read what I channeled as I was, doing my way of, connecting to my spirit team. So last night, okay. Now I'm being guided to say okay, March 22nd is, I'm now really going back. I'm backdating right now. March 22nd, I was watching a video, and in the video it said, I wrote down a quote that said, unbecome what you believed yourself to be, right? And then last night, it was 10 o'clock. I literally am reading it, 10:08 p.m., March 28th, 2026. What I got was growth has no ceiling, but it has a basement. And the meaning is to remember where you began and what it took for you to grow and rise, while knowing that there are no limits for your ascension. And then also, don't lose sight of where you began while working on who you are becoming. And the reason why I feel guided to say what I wrote on March 22nd is because it all is connected. It's all connected. And some of the examples that I was guided to, or that I was given the imagery of, and getting this channel, was the act of growing your muscles and then maintaining the work you put in to sustain those muscles, that muscle growth, right? And um, if you stop doing what it is that that gave you the growth, then you are basically going back to zero. So that's that basement that we talk about with growth. Growth has a basement. It has where you once was. It's the ground floor. It's the ground zero, if you will. And um and the basements are always the darkest point, the darkest part of the building, right? It's where the light is not shown. It's where light is not actively able to go to be, can penetrate, right? That's the darkness, there's something always comes out of light, comes out of darkness. There's no, you can't have light without dark, you can't have dark without light. And the reality is we all have our basements, and if we are not mindful of what's in our basement when we are building, then we can run the risk of compromising our ascension and going back down towards that basement. And so another, what I'm alluding to in that is skyscrapers. And what the first thing that came in my mind is the World Trade Centers, towers, and how hundreds of floors, right? if you were to, one of the things that came in my head last night, if you grew up in a place and all you saw were 5-floor buildings, where the tallest it'll get is 5 floors, and you never got exposed to anything greater or taller than 5-floor buildings, then that will be what you think your ceiling is. The max you can go height you can go to is the 5th floor. When the reality is you can build beyond that, right? And so that's where growth has no ceiling, in that the only time it has a ceiling is if you decide a ceiling should be there. The only time growth has a ceiling is if you allow yourself to stop growing, right? And then the moment you stop growing, you stop building and, evolving, right? You start decaying. And the great poet and author Nikki Giovanni even said that, the question is, are you going to continue? I'm paraphrasing, but you're either going to grow or you're going to decay, you know? So that's another analogy, like the fact that skyscrapers can continue to grow beyond, or be built high, well high up into the sky, right? That's called air real estate, I believe. Is it like air real estate? Like land real estate, and then air is about the building, how you can just build up. And there's cities all around the world that have 100+ floor skyscraper buildings, right? And the reality is every skyscraper still has a what? Has a basement. It has that darkness. It has that space where light is not able to penetrate. It has that space where air is cannot be refreshed and free flowing, right? And if we are not careful, the saddest things is that there is a great fall for great pride, great things like that. This is just what I'm channeling right now as I'm thinking more about it as well. Another example is airplanes and taking flight. You know, before that plane can be up in the sky, it has to do things on the ground to prepare itself to be able to take flight. And that grounding, the work it's doing on the ground is like that basement, in the sense of the plane's necessary actions to, or like what's the word, precursors or whatever, to gain the momentum to be able to accelerate and ascend off ground, as well as maintain itself in the sky. The moment the engine is no longer doing what it did on the ground to get it to accelerate, and the moment where that engine stops working, that's when gravity will kick in, and that plane will descend, and descend in a way that is not in control of, and that is out of the control of the person that got it up into that sky. And so it's like being mindful and aware of how you work in the doing what it is that need to be done, doing what is necessary to be done in order to maintain the height in which you've ascended. You cannot maintain and be thousands of feet in the air and then stop working, and then stop moving, stop doing the actions, and stop having the mindset that got you there. Because once you do that, that fall is going to be even more tragic, and it's going to be um, it's going to be out of control, you know? Because the reality is with the plane does eventually come down. That's one thing when it comes to like the different examples that I was guided towards um in this message. The plane will go down eventually. Unlike the skyscraper and growing your muscles, right? That maintenance is necessary. But when it comes to a taking flight, it's going to have to go back down and descend once it's arriving to the destination it's meant to be at. But the difference is that descent is controlled. It is still, there's work being put in so that it can successfully and securely reground itself, right? That's the same thing when we are ascending and we need to reground. There is a level of work that needs to take place so that we can do it safely. If we are not in a mindset of I don't know, of I don't know, Spirit, bring me the word. If we're not in a mindset of effort, of acknowledgement of the work that needs to be done, and that we will continue to need to do, then we can lose sight of how we fall, or how we move, how we navigate through into destinations that we are I forgot. Oh, I need my bacon. Okay, focus, Brendaé. We all right. Okay, focus. We can be in a place of that I ain't gonna lie. I got threw off with my bacon, but I'm gonna come back to that because I forgot. I got another analogy though, so hold that thought. Birds. All right. Birds also is an analogy or an example of this. A bird has the ability to be on land and in air, right? Has the ability to ascend and descend, to in its survival and its ability to move throughout this world. The work that the wings on a bird has to do in the sky is very different from what it does on land. On land, the wings don't need to be moved; it's tucked in, right? But in the sky, it has to be extended. It has to be stretched, and it has to be in motion and activated, right? So in movement, right? In order for that bird to ascend, to fly to higher heights. Even for a bird can coast and stop flapping its wings and still be able to be elevated or in the air, right? But the moment the bird does what the bird does to its wings what it would do on land, it's going to descend. It's going to allow gravity to take control of itself, right? Instead of being able to be in control of how it moves. So it's like being mindful of how you position yourself as you ascend, is a direct correlation to your sustenance and or your ability to sustain the height in which you rise to. If you move like you would on land when grounded, in the sky, in regards to a bird, right? If you position yourself how you would have in the beginning, now that you're at a higher height and you're off land, you're going to go back to the very depths or the very level you were once at, because you have positioned your body through your mind to be where you once were. Now, this is completely different than what I was channeling last night. This is something new, something added on. But it's just making me think about that. Like, you can't do what you were doing on land, and now that you are in the air. Because if you do what you were doing on land, in the air, the land is where you will go back to, right? Growth has no ceiling, but it does have a basement. Be mindful of the actions that you are doing as you rise, because those are the actions that you need to maintain so that you may continue to be at the level you are at, or it's ascend even more. The moment you stop, that is the moment when you will retrace those steps back to where you began. And so how often do I think now about celebrities, and how a celebrity, I'm thinking of one celebrity that I loved their music and what they stood for in the beginning, and now what they have become are two different people, right? And it's sad to see, because now I don't listen to their music anymore, because I can tell that shift has happened within them. But what caused that musician, that artist, to rise was them being built on the values of family, of loyalty, of integrity, of purpose, of authenticity, right? And then once they got to a height that they thought was the pinnacle of existence for them, there were incremental shifts within what they valued. And now even the messaging within their music became more of money, of status, of other celebrity name droppings that they revered and thought highly of, right? It became more of lyrics discussing, name dropping brands and fashion, and less about integrity, less about loyalty, less about the purpose that they built themselves and prided themselves and highlighted song after song. It became less about authenticity and less about family. And now family has just become a tagline, but it was once the baseline. And so one of the things I see for this celebrity, at some point, what got them to the fame, them choosing to now shift, and what is baseline and fundamental for them, and now capitalism and the vulture culture of Hollywood has seeped its fangs in them. I see the basement moment occurring for that celebrity. And I don't want to say their name, but yeah. And it's not something that is not hard to see, because this society has shown us that so time and time again, yeah, you can start with those morals. You can start with the moral compass. But if you want to get to a certain level of fame and stardom and get into that billionaire or a billionaire status, and I don't mean like just $1 million millionaires. I'm talking about like several 100,000 millions, billions, close to, and up there. There's things you have to sacrifice And one of the main things to sacrifice is that moral compass. That moral compass is what is the guiding, is a navigator of your soul. And one of the things I've noticed, that celebrities who rise to high status of fame, they're fine, and they're fine and on that rise, on that come up, right? And being at the pinnacle of stardom, pinnacle of fame and fortune, right? But the moment that they try to reconnect to their ancestry, to their ancestors, to their people, the moment they try to become humanitarian, and not in the sense of propaganda or of showmanship, but more or performance based humanitarianism, but genuine, authentic, authentic, the genuine, authentic humanitarian, seeing the human in themselves, seeing the human in others, right? And honoring that. Connecting to their ancestors, connecting to spirit, connecting to God in a deeper way. Then comes their fall, right? It comes their fall in the sense of them being labeled crazy, insane, delirious, an addict. Then comes an untimely, mysterious death, right? Or disappearance, right? And it's what it was happening is for me, and I'm going off into, now I'm going into different routes. This is now me, what I was coming at when it comes to sinners. But basically, you can have this fame, but when you try to reconnect to your soul, now you have to, we gonna snatch back all of what we gave you. This is Holly weird. This is that love of money. We gonna snatch that out, all that back. And that's like that plane in the air, that engine stops running. That's like that bird in the air, it retracts its wings, right? It's like that skyscraper no longer having that strong foundation that's going to keep it rise, keep it elevated and secure. It's like that person who was growing their muscles, they stopped working out. They stopped doing the and I know this from experience because I've done this, and me being back on what caused me to grow my muscles and at one point being back on it. Okay, but that's a whole nother story. But that's that, those moments are, it's incremental, but it caused catastrophic ripples and effects. The person losing weight, for that moment is they start doing everything that they were once doing that caused them to be obese, right? We have to be mindful of what got us to our ascension. And the moment we stop doing what it is that got us to that ascension, or the moment we try to do something different than what got us to that ascension, then we are compromising the height in which we have been in. And this can be looked at in both the good and bad, right? Because what you built your rise on could easily become what causes your demise. I gotta run it back. What you built your rise on can become what causes your demise. So if you built your rise on, so that's for people, for if you built your rise on the love of money, you built your rise on fame and stardom, you built your rise on attention from others, people pleasing, enabling behaviors. You built your rise on being a yes man. You built your rise on turning the cheek towards violence, and you built your rise on not being truthful, you built your rise on things that are harmful, then you got to maintain that in order to stay at that level. This is why there are people, and some people who are, I would say, earth angels, people who are trying to live by a moral compass of 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 integrity and of peace and of kindness and empathy and compassion, right? And authenticity. People who are trying to live by those codes, and then they see people who are evil, like the Diddy's and the Ellens and the Epsteins of this world, rise so much. The reason why they can rise so much is because there is a level of growth that can happen even in the bad, even in doing the wrong thing. Think about how bacteria grows. It makes me think of something I learned years ago when I was in the culinary industry called Fat Tom. Fat Tom is an acronym for the 6 elements necessary for bacteria to grow, right? And you need food, you need acidity, you need time, temperature, oxygen, and moisture. All of those elements create in it create the perfect environment, the perfect setup for bacteria to double in size, right? To multiply itself. And so, even in that, we can have a growth in even darkness. We can have growth in something that is bad, right? If we give it the room, the time, the temperatures, the air, the moisture, we give it the source in which it's going to feed itself on, right? So that's how these millionaires, billionaires, these evil people or evil thinkers can continue to prosper, right? But the moment they try to change their narrative, the moment they try to uh, move in a way that is that's not in alignment to what caused their ascension, then that becomes their demise. And the very thing that the stepping stones they that gave them their rise become the very things that we see in media being splattered and coming out that knocks them down and continues to knock them down, right? Now, how does that connect to sinners? I hope all this connects and is, if whoever listens to this is understanding what I'm saying. But like, I may have to come back on how to connect to sinners. But I will say how they connect to what I was initially saying is that growth has no ceiling, but it has a basement. You have to, as someone who wants to have a moral compass and be guided by your moral compass as you grow and ascend in this world, as um, you move in your purpose, make sure that the decisions you're making, the mindset you have, the actions you're taking are in alignment to your moral compass, in alignment to your soul's mission, in alignment to your the divinity you claim you you have or that you follow. And the moment that you try to veer off that path, you will bring your demise will come in how you rose. Your demise will be how the same in how you, yeah, that the rise, demise. Yeah, it's wordplay, but at the same time, it's connected. Um, and so if you want to sustain your rise, you have to make sure that what you are doing in in a as you ascend is aligned to the values you claim and the you have and the fruits of the spirit you claim to bear. Yeah. That is love, kindness, gentleness. That is honesty, integrity. That is prudence for me. That is generosity. That is empathy, compassion, grace. All right? That is fortitude, loyalty, trust. Because if you are building yourself and ascending off from the fruits of the Spirit and through the fruits of the Spirit, when it's time for you, like that bird, to come back down to ground yourself, you can be able to better navigate how to descend in a way that is safe and secure. Mm. I think that's where I'm gonna leave it. Yeah, I'm trying to turn this off and it's still not trying to go off. So clearly, maybe I'm supposed to keep going. But either way, I've been trying to, I literally push pause, I push stop. This is not trying to end. Okay, Spirit, what else we got for me to say then? Did I get it all? I think I did. Look, hey, if y'all resonate with this or something that I said is um made you think of something or enlighten you about something, please let me know. I would like to have some, um, more dialogue about this. This is more of a monologue. It's just me talking to myself via this, recorder. But yeah, okay. Let's see if it's gonna actually end now.